Genesis chapter 3 verse 21. That is going to be our text. Also for Adam and his wife, the Lord made tunics of skin and clothed them. The Lord bless the reading of his holy word in Jesus' name. Amen. So let's think about this. The context of God giving Adam and Eve a clothing is that they had first disobeyed him, they have sinned against him, they had run away from him. Then he showed up and looked at them, saw the makeshift fig leaves that they had made to cover themselves, and he thought, you guys can't help yourselves. I'm going to give you something. Now, when you put in that context, when someone has done something wrong, something that you are not pleased with, your first response is not necessarily to give them something that they need. Your first response is to turn away and go, nah. However, God teaching us what it is to give, looked at people, a couple that has done something. We know Adam and Eve sinned, obeyed Satan rather than obeyed God. But in that interaction, God looked at their need and met their need. That is the first example of giving. Or you can say, no, not because God looked at Adam and said he was lonely and gave him a wife, gave him company and all that. There are several things that we must come to realize, that nobody becomes poorer by giving. That I give you something never makes me poorer. And someone said, it is not how much we give, it is how much love we put into giving. Never give so that you can get. Give so that you inspire others to give. I know, pastor comes and wants to excite you and deceive you and just go, yeah, give so that you will receive. Well, true, you receive, but the purpose of you giving must be rooted and founded in the love that you have. When Adam and Eve sinned, they realized that they were naked. They realized that something had become different. And they went into hiding. They probably went into hiding because, they've offended God. And they were now a bunch of sinful people. And we must remember that God's eyes, or God is of purer eyes than to behold iniquity. But even in that, God's love made him to seek out both Adam and his wife and to give to them. God gives us an example of giving and forgiving. Whereas today, what you think of first is the person that has offended you or done something wrong against you. You look for a way to expose them and go, oh, this is what this person has done. And all that. If we will be like God, and we should be like Him, giving must not be just about money. It doesn't start with money, neither does it end with money. I'll use building as an example. When you go look in the scriptures, you'll find that the people first gave themselves before they gave their substance. However, what we see today is people who want to give their substance and will not give themselves. And the substance is not what God desires. First, that God desires is that you give yourself. As fathers, what do we give to our children? Is it the education and paying their school fees and buying them clothes? Anybody could do that. Actually, the social system, the government can do that and does do that. What God would expect of you to give to your children above all other things is the life that you live, leading them in the way of the Lord, leading them in the way of following Jesus Christ. You know, Moses told the parents in Deuteronomy that you must teach your children this law in rising, in sitting, before you sleep, on the way, all of that. However, today we have become so busy that we get babysitters, the games and all those things for our children, and we don't teach them the way of the Lord. Actually, a gift that you can give God is teaching your children to follow the Lord, to follow after Him, to grow in God's way, in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. And I pray for you, and I want you to pray that God will give you the grace to return to that place where in fellowship, in commitment to teaching, to hearing, to going out to share the gospel, to shine as light, you will show your children the path to follow. We cannot be too busy with the things of this life. You know, in Revelation, it talks about the church that became so full. But Jesus' assessment was they were poor. You listen to, I pray that God will bring us to the place where our testimony will be really about our experience of God, not for the things that will perish, but for the things that are eternal. So, giving must be in love, must be about love, not as a duty, but out of the love that we have for God or for God's people. A lot of times, and as it was in the Old Testament, people gave to atone for their sins. But the writer of Hebrews wrote about Christ. Hebrews 10, reading from verse 5, saying the sacrifices, the gifts of the priest was never sufficient to blot out sins, because if it was, they will not have had year after year to continue to bring sacrifices, to bring gifts, to tithe, to bring wave offering and all those kind of things. So therefore, when he came into the world, he said, sacrifice and offering you did not desire, but a body you have prepared for me. In burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin you had no pleasure. Then I said, behold, I have come. In the volume of the books it is written, in the volume of the book it is written of me to do your will, O God. So our giving must be rooted in our love for God and must be to do the will of God. We cannot give more than what God has given us in the first instance. So we cannot give to impress God. What have you that you have not received? The life that I live, the breath that I breathe, it is a gift from God. The voice that comes out of me is a gift of God. So what do I have that I've not received? Why then do I think that because I serve as a pastor and I do all this, God owes me a debt? No, he doesn't. Every man is required to give according to his ability, according to the enablement that God has given him. In Deuteronomy 16:17, says you cannot go steal, you cannot go take on debt so that you can give to God. No, that is not giving to God. That is looking to impress pastor. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord your God, which he has given you. However, giving does come with affliction. A sacrifice is not a sacrifice unless there is a deprivation. Either deprivation of life, if it's sacrifice of animals and all that, or deprivation of pleasure, if it is some of the things we give away. In 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 1 to 7, moreover, brethren, we make known to you the grace of God bestowed on the churches of Macedonia, that in a great trial of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty abounded in the riches of their liberality, in the riches of their giving. For I bear witness that according to their ability, yes, beyond their ability, they were freely willing imploring us with much urgency that we will receive the gift and the fellowship of the ministering to the saints. And not only as we had hoped, but they first gave themselves to the Lord and then to us by the will of God. So we urged Titus that as he had begun, so he would also complete this grace in you as well. But as you abound in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in all diligence, and in your love for us, see that you abound in this grace also. Truly, you cannot give to God in plenty if you are not able to give to him in want. You cannot give to God in plenty if you are not able to give to him in want. We'll get to talk a bit more in one or two sermons down the line, but I can just quickly share with you that if your lifestyle compares with the lifestyle of people in your financial status, then you are not giving. If your lifestyle compares with the lifestyle of people in your financial status, you are not giving. It's not the amount that you give. It is what you truly, there was something that happened a few years back. And for those who follow the news and all that, you'll remember somewhere in Victoria, two companies took themselves to court because one company was stealing information from the other company and using the pricing. At some point in time, one of the companies hired people to go steal the garbage of one of the executives of the other company. And it went to the law court and all that. And they started proving how what is garbage, what you are throwing away, is not anything of worth to you anymore. And you can't say you own it. So you can't say that those people were stealing it, kind of thing. Yeah, people don't steal garbage. If I've thrown it out, I've thrown it out. So if what I give are the things that I don't need, I've actually not given. If it is something I would have thrown away, that you came and said, oh, B, give me that, and I gave you, you've just helped me. Like someone did to me, I went to pay $10 to buy a deep freezer when I first came to Canada, and I had to spend $25 to throw it away. A week later, I thought I was being cheap also. I thought she was doing me a favor, that I was going to sell a deep freezer for $10. So I paid her $10. I plugged it for several days. It wasn't working. I took it to the dump. That was my first visit to the dump. Then I realized I had to pay to dump the deep freezer there. Like, okay, welcome to... No, Canadians, though, we Canadians, we don't behave like that. That person must have come from somewhere else. In a giving, we must understand that we are laying up treasures in the place that we want, that our focus is on. Hebrews 13 reminds us, 14 to 16, we have no continuing city in this place. We have no lasting place to store up wealth for ourselves in this place. We must seek the city that is to come. So therefore, let us offer continually the sacrifice of praise to God, the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name, to do good and to share of our substance with those in need. We must not forget to do, because with such, God is well pleased. And when we come talking about the churches in Macedonia, they first gave of themselves to the Lord. In Luke chapter 14, verse 26. And that is what our focus is today. To start with, before you can give anything, you must give yourself first to the Lord. So Jesus said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Jesus calls for absolute commitment. He cannot use the excuse that you are married or you have children or your parents as what holds you back from following the Lord or giving to the Lord. Because it says, I know people struggle a lot with this passage and go, oh, Jesus did not mean that. I want to submit to you that he meant it. If you say it's not like that in original Greek, I'll talk about original Greek at some point in time, because Jesus did not speak Greek, so it couldn't have been original. But really, Jesus said, Father, mother, yeah, I want my children to love me, but he said, even my own life itself. When you consider that, you know that Jesus is calling for absolute, complete commitment to him. When Abel gave an offering, the offering that Abel gave meant giving life. So the issue is that our offering to God is first our lives before our money. When you read Genesis 4:1-5, Abraham brought the firstborn of his flock. He separated to God what he first received. So, and that is an example of hating your life. Because if I went to do something and the first that comes from me, my first inclination, my natural inclination is I take that to myself. I'm a normal human being. But Abel, that which he should take to himself, he gave first to God. And this was a matter of faith, because he wasn't sure that there will be any other yield after that. There was no guarantee. So when it comes to giving, it has to be by faith. You are not giving because you know that they are going to pay your salary next week, so you'll be able to pay your mortgage. No. Giving is an exercise in faith, not knowing where the next meal will come from. I'm not saying you should go on a hunger strike, but when you truly give, it is not out of, oh, I've done my numbers, I know what will happen. And God never appreciates being given Even the scraps. In Malachi chapter 1 verse 8, he said, go give that to your governors. See whether they'll accept it from you. Because the pastors, it was the pastors he was talking to, were giving him the scraps of whatever was left from what they had. So the question today is, have you given yourself to God? Are you totally yielded to God? I want us to bow down our heads and I want us to pray.